Flosstube. It's Arlene here. It is Tuesday, February 22nd, 2022. It is Tuesday, if you've seen this anywhere online and social media and so on. February 22nd, 2022. Well, if you just write it with the two twos for the year is 22222. And this whole week, it's a palindrome that if you go with tomorrow, which will be 22122. A palindrome is something that you can read backwards and forwards. The same you usually talk about with words like the word mom, but we talk about it with numbers too. And I've seen a lot, like, because not only is it 222 whatever, it fell on a Tuesday. So as a numbers person, it's been kind of fun to see that stuff. I remember there's been some other days. I can remember 12-12-12. A place called the Museum of Mathematics had just opened in New York City, and I know they made a big deal about the numbers and the significance of the numbers of the date. And another one that has been around for a long time is March 14th, which is Pi Day, P-I, as in the I don't want to get all mathy here on you, but what's used when you're measuring circles. And it's a number that goes on forever, 3.14159, blah, 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 blah. There are people that love to memorize digits of pi, the important ones being 3.14, March 14th. And then in the year 2015, when it was 3.1415. I live near Princeton, New Jersey, and Albert Einstein is associated very much with Princeton, New Jersey. So the town of Princeton has had some Pi Day activities, events, and so on for quite some time, a number of years. Obviously not the last couple. I don't know if anything's planned for this year. Okay, date. That was a long introduction to the date. Hi, everybody. I'm here to talk about cross stitch. If you're new to me, welcome. Thank you for coming by to visit. And if you are a returnee, thank you for coming back. I design under the name Works by ABC. If you haven't heard this already, my initials are ABC. And in less than 2 weeks, a week and a half, I'll be attending my first Nashville market as an exhibitor. If you are been watching a lot of cross-stitch videos, Flosstube videos recently, you probably have already heard this. But I always go on the assumption that there might be someone who hasn't. So let me just give a little background. Once a year, there is an in-person market. It is wholesale only. So the exhibitors go, the designers, thread companies, floss companies, but a lot of designers go and, in effect, set up a little store. Store owners attend, and they go around and they buy from all the little stores. They then bring those items home and, as relatively soon as possible, start selling them to their customers. So this is not open for the general public. You need to be a store owner to attend. It is held at an Embassy Suites, which right outside of Nashville, Tennessee, and that's why people refer to it as Nashville. And this Embassy Suites, which, are all of them like this? It's one of those hotels that has a big soaring atrium. And so you can see like the hallways going around on each floor. And it's a suite. So if you were walking right into the hotel room, you encounter like a living room space. And then back there is the bedroom space with the bathroom in between. So everyone sets up the store in their room. Their living room is basically their store. I don't know how many years this has been going on. All I know is a long time. I have heard that at one point in our cross-stitch world history, there was a time when there was 2 in-person markets, and that has not been the case for the last number of years. However, last year, we did start up the idea of a virtual market, the Needlework Expo, and the idea of 1 in-person market a year and 1 virtual market a year. To me, it's like a great way to balance those who want to really be in person, talk, communicate, see things in person, with those store owners that cannot afford it, or it's financially or logistically not reasonable for them to go to Nashville. So I'm pretty sure there is a plan, probably even a date in place for Expo in August. But we are here to talk about Nashville. If you've been around with me for the last few years, I attended Nashville in 2020 It literally took place like a week before the world started shutting down, or the United States started shutting down. Like if it had been scheduled one weekend later, who knows? So I attended that year in 2020 to be a guest, a visitor. I wanted to go and see it in person before I was an exhibitor there. So nervous about how it works and doing it right and all of that. But I can say in these last few months, as I've been preparing for this as my first time as an exhibitor, what I saw and people who I talked to and all of that from 2020 has been so immensely helpful that I can visualize certain things that I don't think I would have had I not visited in 2020. I'm not the first designer that's done that. I know I talked to a couple, at least two, I think, newbie people in 2020 who had done what I did in 2019. So incredibly useful. When it comes to Nashville, many, if not every designer, puts out some brand new things for store owners to come and bring back to their customers. And so I am here to share with you my Nashville releases for this year. If you've heard the word exclusive, Nashville exclusives, again, I believe in teaching people because I didn't know this until it was clarified to me. Nashville exclusive is a design or whatever, a needle minder or thread that is exclusive to the stores that are attending Nashville for a month. I mean, a month is the word, 30 days. That's what I've heard. I mean, the idea being for the stores that are putting in the effort and the money and all of it to travel to Nashville, they should have, something a little bit so that somebody else can't go home and go order it on, Etsy or something right away. So a Nashville exclusive is something that can only be picked up at Nashville by store owners to sell when they get home. It is not the same as a limited edition. That's where I had gotten confused. A limited edition is something that is only sold at Nashville, and I suppose unless there were leftovers, that's it, not going to be sold again. Exclusive, Nashville exclusive just means it is not going to be sold in any other venue or way, distributor, whatever, for at least 30 days. So what I'm about to show you, I am selling as Nashville exclusives. So your LNSs and ONSs, whether you have a local store to go to in person, whether you shop at a store through online, they will have the opportunity to purchase these patterns. And I will not make them available to in my Etsy store or to the distributors until at least a month has passed. But I'm excited to share with you. If you follow me on Instagram, you have already seen all of them. Depends on when this video gets up. So was there anything more in the background that I was going to explain? Oh, about the layout of the hotel. So again, if you can picture one of those hotels with a big soaring atrium and you can see like the hallways around, can you picture like the railings that are there? And so all the designers bring banners to hang over that railing so that, you're looking for, store XYZ and you could see across, you have it in a little booklet, but you see it across the way. That's where store XYZ is. Or designer XYZ. So following the recommendations, they said a banner no bigger than 3 by 4 feet. So I want to show you my banner before I start getting it packed up. So there I am. That is the font, the logo, that whenever you have it, that you will see on all my designs. And I have been so busy, as has everyone else attending Nashville, with all the preparation, with packing up, with getting all patterns together, with thinking it all through. And I was going to do this video over the weekend. I sent my email. Many designers, if not everyone, send out an email newsletter to all the attending store owners so they can know or at least get sneak peeks of what the designers will have available if they wish to offer pre-order opportunities. I sent out my email to stores on this past Friday. I was intending to do this video over the weekend. I spent my whole weekend doing all kinds of prepping stuff, and days kept going by. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put that on the list to do once everything gets shipped out. I am shipping things. I'm not driving. And then I paused and realized, wait a second. If I do that, I won't have my models to show because they're going to be shipped out. So I'm like, you know what? I got to put all that on pause today, get this video, and then continue with my work. I live about 12 hours away from Nashville. For some people, they'll do that drive. It's just not something I could do. So for me, it's shipping and flying. All right, here we go. So my first design that I want to share with you is called Swirling Seasons. And I have them laid out in a basket. I'll take them out individually. You will see there are 4 of them. All 4 designs in the same pattern that you don't need to purchase them separately. So if I will start with the first one that I started with, here is spring. In spring colors, you see the word spring, and you perhaps all you see is just a geometric design around like in a circle. Wonderful, great. Look closer. What it actually is the letters going around. Like if you look here at this S, can you see you have S's all the way around? P's all the way around. Yes, it does get a little mushed together, and that gives it some of that style. But when I had this idea and I was trying to rotate a word around, and I just liked the way it looked, and I'm like, you know what? I started with spring. I'm like, I bet I could do this for all of them. And I did. And then I liked it so much, I was like, yes, I want to do this design. So there is spring. Here is autumn. And all of these, I have stitched the swirl using Gentle Arts. And a couple of them you really see the variegation more than others. And then the word I stitch in DMC, I'm a very practical stitcher, meaning if I don't have a whole lot like these words, I don't want to even put on my design, go out and get 8 Gentle Arts when 4 would suffice. If you're the kind of person that's going to substitute, go right ahead. But for me, 4 Gentle Arts, which make them beautiful, and 4 DMCs works perfectly fine. So autumnal colors, I couldn't use the word fall. It would have been too short. So I used autumn. Then we go into winter. And I think this is one that to me, in person, you can see this, the variegation of this most clearly. For winter, I wasn't going to do Christmas winter. I was going to do like snowflakey winter. And so that's where this one is. And oh, I did them out of order, didn't I? Oh, well, autumn does not come after spring. Here's summer in sort of summery, beachy kind of colors. They are slightly different sizes. If you think about the concept, I was using a font that I could, or shapes of letters that I could easily rotate. They're not all the same. The length of the word, they're not hugely different. All of them were stitched on 32 count Zweigart. I'm going to say flax, but let me check. So here's the pattern. You get all 4 of them. Not flax. In the color raw, like raw is the name of the color. And the stitch counts, the smallest is 73 by 73 and the largest is 95 by 95, and the other 2 are in between. So Swirling Seasons, if you like smalls that you can display, if you like something that maybe makes people stop and look at it a little bit more closely, maybe you'd be interested in this. So there you go, first design. Let me move some things out of the way here. All right, the next one I want to share is Band Sampler. Yeah, here we go. So I'm calling this 1544 Band Sampler. Because the motifs, the bands, and the motifs in here are inspired by and basically come from a pattern book that was published in 1544 in Venice. Now, if you are familiar with my designs, I often turn to these old pattern books, centuries old pattern books, to look for inspiration. I just think that, it's multiple reasons. One is certainly I love the history and the fact that there's background. And I also love the fact that we can say, hey, nearly 500 years later, there is something beautiful that can still be pulled from that book that was published back then. I will say very clearly, if you read about these old pattern books, and there's fascinating, lots of information out there, this is well before copyrights. So sometimes you see some designs in one book and then you see it in another book, and that's just the way it was done back then. So you can see, maybe you can't see. I used DMC 115, which is a variegated red. And in some previous Flosstube videos, like when I was stitching, I was talking about using this because I really love 115, that color. And I should have had a skein available to show you, and I don't. But there's parts of it that are very bright, like a bright red. And I just didn't like that within this design. Other people might love it. So I was cutting out those bright parts, which meant I did use more skeins of thread than I would have, but I was fine with that. So the stitch count of this is 50 by 211. I stitched it on a 27 count banding over 2, and the banding is 4.7 inches wide, which is probably some nice round centimeter number, but what I've written here is 4.7 inches. So I want to say it's a fairly standard size banding. But truly, I mean, anything that will allow you to do 50 across. And you don't even have to stitch it on a banding. You could stitch it whatever. And then just bell pull hardware to make it go. So I had... Last year, for the first expo in March, I had a band sampler then that was very well received, and I wanted to try doing something else, and so here I am. So 1544 band sampler. Okay. Let's make a pile on the floor. Next one. Oh, I meant to put on a necklace. It's okay. The next one is called Filigree in Stitches. And if you are at all familiar with the word filigree, it's a word that more often than not gets used within jewelry, metalwork with lots of curly swirls and so on. And like I meant to put on the necklace that I have. And so that's this design. And there's geometry to it. There's rotational symmetry. I love it. When I was designing this, I don't know if there was any specific thing that got me on this path, but I was thinking about different sizes. Oh, I think it was probably, I was debating how I was going to stitch it as I was creating the design. And the whole size thing, I think I had been working on the band sampler, and 27 count over 2, which is to say like 13.5 stitches per inch, is rather large for me. I usually am a smaller stitcher. But I was just thinking about various things, and I was like, well, what if I use this one to make a point or to show something? So over here is Filigree in Stitches on 32 count over 2, and over here is Filigree in Stitches on 32 count over 1. So not the exact same fabric, different color, but literally half the size of the stitching. And you could see reverse colors. I love having something like this. It's really, I mean, if you are new to stitching, new to the terminology, over 2, over 1, here's a visual to help you see what happens if you stitch over 2 threads versus when you stitch over 1 thread. DMC, because I wanted the solid color to be able to do the effect that I was going for. However, a design like this, I think, would potentially look really beautiful in some variegated threads. Maybe not if you were stitching 2 of them, but whatever. You do what you want. So, as with all of my designs, I write model was done with. And I don't like it when people talk, well, I never use the phrase called for. You know, this fabric is called for, this thread is called for. I fully recognize that's what people say when they see on the back, this is what Arlene stitched it on, this is the called for. Because I always encourage, try whatever you like. Maybe this, and this, yeah, you're not seeing this very well. Color-wise, it's like it is a purple, a lavender with a little leaning more toward the red direction. The frame color of the big one, basically is the same as the fabric color, which is what I was going for, and they're looking washed out, you'll just have to come see them in Nashville if you're a store owner. What was I just talking about before I got myself? Oh, DMC, no. I know I was just saying something right before I started to talk about the color. Oh, I know. So I always write model stitched with because I so want people to choose the colors that work for them. And it may be the colors that work for me work for them. But to me, it's model stitched. It's not, here is the fabric, here is the thread that you must, whatever, use. So I've put in the pattern the DMCs that I used. So this fabric is a 32 count Zweigart Purple Passion Lugana, which I find interesting because, yes, it's a lavender, it's a purple, but I hear the words Purple Passion, I'm thinking like a royal purple. It's not. That's what it's called. So it's on a Lugana. And it with DMC 938. And this one is on 32 count Zweigart Dark Chocolate Lugana with DMC 3754. Ah, there you go. If you want a sense of what the color really looks like, take out 3754 if you have your DMC collection around. Why Lugana? Well, I do believe in trying out lots of different things, but it was the best fabric for me to get this kind of, I guess I'd found the dark chocolate and I really liked this and wanted to do something with that idea. And this was the fabric to get the colors that worked. Linen fabrics are beautiful. I mostly stitch on linen, but this is what worked for me. So there you go, filigree in stitches. And they are 165 by 165. Some people have asked me, yes, it was quick. I stitched the large one first and then the smaller one. Yes, it's quicker the second time around, especially because either, it wasn't clear in my mind the paths to take. Like when I designed it, I did one thing, but then it had been like a month or two since I had designed it when I started to stitch it. And when I was doing the large one, it was kind of like, wait, what makes the most sense pathwise here? And by the time I got to this one, I knew what made the most sense pathwise, or most sense to me. Okay, filigree on top of everything else down here. Number 4. No act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted. We need kindness as much as possible as we can get in the world these days. Period, end of sentence. When I was I wanted to do a quote with a nice border. And I was going through, Aesop. Aesop? A-E-S-O-P. Aesop? You should look that up. And I even looked up where it came from, the story, The Lion and the Mouse. So I started looking through quotes, just something that would ring with me. And quotes in the public domain. And when I got to this one, I was writing a list and I remember giving it double stars. I'm like, and it turned out to be the one I started to use. I liked the challenge of doing something in a circle. And then came the challenge of how was I going to finish it? And I love what ended up happening. I was looking for circle frames, and the problem was the size. A 12-inch circle frame, which was possible to get, was a little too small. Things would have gotten cut off. And there really wasn't existing, easily found, and not ridiculously expensive frames that were larger. And then I stumbled upon, this is from Joann Fabrics. You could see it's got a little hanging thing. It's not necessarily a frame. It just has a flat back. It could have been painted. It could be used for decoration design. I have basically attached my stitching is in a hoop, like a regular hoop that you would stitch with, and a little padding, a little bit to make it as smooth as possible. And then it's just attached to this board-like thing. So this was a great find to find something that just worked perfectly. Now, I don't think I was directly looking for kindness quotes. Once I found this, I know I went looking, is there any other kindness that appeals to me? Nope, and this is what I went back to. But I feel like it was meant to be because just some things have been coming up, and I'm just going to share two of them that are genuine, honest, real things in the world. The first one being I either started stitching on this, I want to say end of December. I should have looked up some pictures to determine. But either I'd started it or I'd already had it charted and was just getting ready to start it. And I'm pretty sure this is like the last week of December. And think about last week of December. You've got a lot of places with like clearance items of holiday things and calendars. So I was somewhere, it was like a CVS. I was somewhere and just on my way out happened to walk down this aisle that had all this clearance stuff. And this must have been sitting in some way that it caught my eye. Daily Dose of Kindness. And was like, was that meant to be? And it's not directly to a year. It's one of these perpetual calendars. And I've been keeping it on my table and looking at it every day. Some of them are completely doable. If I wasn't seeing anyone in person, to give some cheers on Instagram or social media that day. Some of them are not as easily done. I'm going to show you the one I was hoping today would be one of those like perfect ones to share. Stop at a child's lemonade stand. Not going to happen today. It's just not, okay? But let me show you the one. Is it tomorrow's or the day before? I like tomorrow's. Donate $1 in the next tip jar you see. And I love Thursdays. Tell someone how they've impacted your life. So when possible, I've been trying to do what's here. I mean, again, a lemonade stand is not happening today. But it, like I said, I had kindness in my brain related to this design, and it was like meant to be that I even spotted this calendar. Why was I not just walking straight down that aisle? Why was I even looking briefly? And again, I like that it's a perpetual calendar. It is not just going to be for 2022. That's not the only thing. So, and this only happened like last week or so. I've been reading, basically done with this book. Hemingway didn't say that, The Truth Behind Familiar Quotations. And it's really interesting. I don't want to go look it up if you're interested in it. There's been some quotes that have been to follow the story. Some of them have been very interesting to follow the story. Some of them are quotes that I've heard before, some of them not really. So I'm going through here, and at some night, whenever I was reading, I hit this one. Be kind. Everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. Plato is who it's often attributed to. And the quote investigator, what is his conclusion? All right, I'm not going to take the time to do it. Anyway, so be kind. Everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. I was probably reading while I'm eating dinner. That's what I often do. Literally that same night, scrolling Facebook. I know I follow some inspirational sites of various kinds. That quote came up like an hour later on my Facebook feed. And it was like, that just to encounter it like that. So kindness has really been on my mind a lot in these last couple of months. Cross-stitch design, reading in books, seeing a calendar, doing my little part in the world. So, no act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted. Oh, and there's the pattern. Oh, details. The stitch count is 150 over 150 by 156. Not quite a perfect circle, but close. I stitched this 28 count in Jobelin in denim blue. I liked the color. I said, let me give this a try. I've learned, I suspected, I'm not a fan of 28 count. I can say that I have recently done a project with 28 count, and I can say that in recent times I've acknowledged it's not exactly my favorite size. But denim blue is the color, and I used Gentle Arts threads here. There are 6. Again, there's some places where the variegation is nice and not crazy. So, go. And my 5th and last Nashville release is a blackwork piece. I have a number of blackwork designs in addition to, there's many more cross-stitch designs that I've done. But sometimes I am either inspired or I just find something that appeals to me, and this is kind of one of those. I saw just as I look at things online mostly, a design, that was worked in stucco from the Casa de Palatos in Seville. It's a whole palace. You can find pictures of it online. I should have written like dates, but we're definitely talking centuries ago. There was something about this particular design, because I love these kind of Islamic geometric designs, that appealed to me in the point that I was like, could I translate that to a grid? If you can translate it to a grid, you can make it into a stitched item on counted thread. And I did. And then I was like, well, it's not going to translate well to cross stitch. So this is a great one to do as blackwork. So I have called it Tiles of Seville in blackwork. It kind of has a look of tiles. I really struggled in coming up with names for this. Very geometric, symmetrical, all of that. As I looked at the design, so if you look, the black outlines, and then I wanted to fill in, I wanted to do this in colors, and I wanted to vary the blackwork patterns in them. So every color has a different pattern. I saw the design being split up into 4 areas. And so if you look, for example, at the blackwork pattern in the blue area, it is a different pattern as the one in the green area, which is different from red and different from yellow. It most certainly does not need to be stitched like this at all. And as a part of that, I have in this chart included 2 copies of it, because so there's a color version for anyone who finds it easy to work on colors and wants that. But I've also included a black and white version for those who, whatever they're stitching it with color-wise, finds these colors distracting to work off of. So it made sense for me to provide both patterns. So if you are a blackwork person or you want to give blackwork a try, maybe this is a design that appeals to you. It was stitched on 32 count with 4 DMCs. The stitch count is 69 by 92. I might have just been holding it upside down. Doesn't matter. It's completely symmetrical. So there we go. My 5th and final design. So I hope you found something you liked. I hope you've been enjoying seeing lots of Nashville releases or pictures of them on all kinds of social media places. It's if you have an LNS or if you have a place where you order things from, check to see if they are attending Nashville. Let them know you're interested in any of these or any designer's patterns. If you don't have an LNS or an online source that you are regular at, I'll put in a plug for a friend of mine. Full disclosure, she's a friend of mine, Top Knot Stitcher. I will put a link to her shop below, online store with amazing customer service. And here's how I know. So when I went to Nashville 2 years ago in 2020, I was with Abby. Abby is Top Knot Stitcher, she was there as a store owner. And I got to witness what she was doing. She was going left and right. She was updating spreadsheets. She was buying. And then she shipped out a whole bunch of orders from Nashville Monday morning. So I don't think she got them all out, but I know it can't get much better than that. So I know she is absolutely taking pre-orders. Go over to her site, see if there's anything you're interested in. Just, again, my little plug for a friend. That is, I knew there was something else. Thank you. I should have started with this. Thank you so much for all the love that Rosina Dizery 1820 has received. My last video, if you haven't seen it, you can go back and watch it. I shared my reproduction of this sampler. It is in the collection of the New York Historical Society. They gave me permission to reproduce it. Rosina Dizery, age 15, New York African Free School. Very rare to have samplers that are known to be stitched by a Black girl. There's a lot of history and amazing amount of information, relatively speaking, about her and her life. And her pattern has been a bestseller, to put it mildly. So this is not a Nashville exclusive. When I sent my email to stores, I did include this, and the others are listed as Nashville exclusives, and this one I just wrote new for 2022, so that if they're not familiar with me, they might see this and say, oh, I want to go check that out. But this is available in my Etsy store if you are interested. I will put links below. I sell both as a paper copy to mail to you or PDF for instant download. And is that all now? As I'm looking at the mess that's on the floor here. I was going to bring up and show you what I've been stitching on now. I just didn't bother. We'll save that for next time, shall we? Have you all watched some Olympics recently? Separate from any politics, from any heartbreaks, from any wonderful stories, just in general, I enjoy watching the Olympics, both summer and winter. There was something funny. I wanted to just share this because I just thought this was so funny and so real world. Saw this online, posted more than one place. Summer Olympics. Who can run the fastest? Who can swim the fastest? Who can do the best somersault? Winter Olympics. Who can make it to the bottom of this ice slide of death and survive? Who can get around the rink without getting their hands sliced off by everyone else's feet blades? Can this guy do a 1080-degree flip without dying? Okay. Summer triathlon. Don't run too fast. You have to save your energy for the swim and the bike ride. Winter biathlon. I see you've been skiing for 5 miles. Now here's your gun. So there is quite the difference between the Olympics there's an Olympic story that I always love to share, and I don't know, maybe I've shared it here before. I'm not an athlete. I'm not a regular sports person, but I do like to watch the Olympics, not obsessively, and know some history behind it. And I like to share history of it when I find someone that's interested. I was talking about this with a class of students the other day because they were interested in just some of the history. The first modern Olympics was in 1896. They were replicating the games that occurred in ancient Greece. And the specific story I wanted to tell you is about the discus. They put out the call, can't explain exactly how or why, and a group of Americans, basically college students, decided, hey, let's sign up and give this a try. I think 12, 15 of them, and they were training, and they somehow got a list of these are the events that are going to happen, and it was in Athens. And one of the events was listed as the discus, and one guy said, hey, I'll give this a try. And they're like, what should we do? We'll go to a blacksmith and get a discus made. Can you picture the ancient Greek, there's a guy leaning over with a discus in his hand. So they brought that picture to the blacksmith. And I mean, the key point is in that picture, he's holding it, and the discus is from the palm of his hand to his elbow. And the blacksmith said, what are you doing with that thing? And they're like, we're going to practice throwing it. And he's like, how are you going to throw that thing? Just make it for us. And he did. So this one particular guy, athlete, was practicing with it, couldn't throw it very far, kept practicing with it. There's no way I'm going to do well in this competition. They get over to the Olympics in Athens. Time for the discus. He goes to take out his big thing, which I think weighs like 20 pounds. And the official says, oh, you have to use the regulation discus. And then they hand it to him. And it's like 4 or 5 pounds. So he had been training on something that was literally 4 times as heavy. And as when I tell the story to kids, I said, so what do you think happened? Well, I bet he threw it very far. Yeah, he did. And so I take that story and recognize sometimes when you're doing something, and it does not need to be a physical, competition kind of thing. Sometimes you train or practice really hard on something that is harder than when the actual thing comes about. And, that sometimes applies to like math tests, which is how it comes up in class. But it's a little lesson that I do keep in mind at various times in life. If you're interested in the 1896 Olympics, there is I think it was originally a TV movie. You can find it on YouTube. I know I watched it somewhat recently, probably in the summer. I was like Googling Olympic things. It's a little cheesy, and some of the things are definitely like fictionalized. But the gist of it, because I looked into the history, the gist of it was basically true. And it's just kind of interesting to know a little bit more. I meant to do one thing with the Olympics and I got off track. I think this is long enough at this point. If you're still with me, thank you so much. And thank you for being interested in watching. You have so many Flosstube channels to see, and I appreciate you being here. I hope you have a great few weeks until I see you again.